Simon the leper was someone, that Jesus apparently healed of leprosy. And as you know, leprosy was a terminal disease. It was a terminal illness. There was no treatment. There was no cure. It was a death sentence. And Jesus healed or cleansed many, many lepers during his ministry as a sign of his messiahship. If you remember, when he would heal a leper, he would tell the leper, go to the temple, make the offering for the cleansed leper to the priests as a testimony to them, to the priests, that the Messiah has come and he's cleansing lepers. And Simon was one of the lepers that Jesus healed or cleansed. And the healing of Simon was such a remarkable miracle that after he was healed, people referred to him as Simon the leper. Simon, the guy that used to have leprosy. This nickname just stuck for Simon. He's Simon the leper. People never forgot who Simon was before Jesus healed him. And so they called him Simon the leper. I kind of like that. I think it would be neat if we had nicknames that stated what Jesus healed us of or the sin he delivered us from. Like Billy the liar, Sally the manipulator, Sandy the drunk, Gus the gaslighter, and you could just go on with this. It would be a cool reminder that Jesus has made us new creations. And the old man has passed away. And he has made everything new. And praise the Lord, we are not who we used to be. Praise the Lord that our old sin and our old struggles no longer define who we are. Now we're defined by Jesus Christ and what he's done for us. And so Jesus is at this dinner party at the house of Simon the leper. And listen, he's only 2 days away from the cross. And he's at a dinner party. He's not so stressed out he can't be around people right now. He's not saying, I can't come to your dinner party tonight. I'm going to die for the sins of the world in 2 days. I don't have the mental energy to be around people right now. I got the crucifixion coming up in 2 days. I think I'm just going to stay home tonight. Maybe after the crucifixion or resurrection, we can get together for breakfast. But right now, and some of you are stressed out because Christmas is only a week away, right? Dear Jesus, help me just get through this week and get to Christmas. And Jesus is like, yeah, I can totally relate. I remember when I was going to die for the sins of the world, going to Simon's house for dinner. And it was so much for me. So yeah, you're trying to get everything together for Christmas. You've got only a week. And as Jesus was sitting at dinner, verse 7 says, a woman came and anointed him with costly oil. Now, the other gospel accounts help us to fill in some details of this story. John's gospel tells us this woman was Mary, the sister of Martha and Lazarus, who also lives in the town of Bethany. As I said, she's apparently at this dinner party. So it's Mary. Matthew says she anointed Jesus on his head. John's gospel adds that she also anointed his feet and wiped his feet with her hair. They would sit on the ground. The tables were low. They would sit on the ground on pillows. They would have their feet kind of out behind them. So she came up behind him, anointed his head and his feet, and began to wipe his feet with her hair. Mark's account says this costly oil was worth 300 denarii. Now, a denarii was a day's wage for a laborer. And so 300 denarii would be equal to about a year's wages for a laborer. So this bottle of fragrant oil that she pours out on Jesus, it was worth tens of thousands of dollars in today's money. This oil may have been her whole life savings in that bottle. They didn't have mutual funds or 401ks. You would buy something of value, and that's how you would invest your money in the ancient world. And she poured the whole thing out. The other gospel said she broke the bottle open and poured it out and used it all to anoint Jesus as an act of worship. But it says when she did this in verse 8, when his disciples saw it, they were indignant. And they said, "Why this waste? For this fragrant oil might have been sold for much and given to the poor." Now, John's gospel tells us that it was Judas Iscariot that kind of began this whole indignation thing about this. He was the first one to express indignation. And the other disciples, jumped on the indignation wagon with Judas and said, "Why the waste? The oil could have been sold for a high price and the money given to the poor." Now, if you're a note taker, this is the oldest recorded example of virtue signaling right here. Judas didn't care about the poor. He wants people to think he cared about the poor, but he didn't really care about the poor. John chapter 12, verse 6 says that Judas didn't care about the poor. He said this because he was a thief and in charge of the money bag, and he was embezzling money from the ministry of Jesus. And he just watched this woman dump tens of thousands of dollars out that he could have embezzled. So then Jesus came to Mary's defense in verse 10. But when Jesus was aware of it, when he saw the disciples giving her a hard time, he said to them, "Why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a good work for me." The ESV says, "She has done a beautiful thing to me." I like that. What she has done to me is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, Jesus said. What the disciples called a waste, Jesus called beautiful.